Hey guys, Vance Wampler here, talking about part 6 of the real estate fix and flip training, going over acquisitions, which, guys, acquisitions is really where you guys can make or break your deals, and it's honestly and truly, I think, the most important part of the whole fix and flip model. So that's why I kind of put it in the middle, so we can get the meat and the bones and the potatoes of this acquisition piece of information. All right, so acquisitions, guys. Whenever we're looking at acquisitions, it's truly the acquiring of the property, and there's some things you need to think about too when you're looking at the property versus the model. Some big things I can tell you. You know, when you're looking at buying a property, you never want to force a property to fit your model. You know, we went over a little bit about, you know, what your model is going to look like, the kind of criteria, the kind of acquisition model, you know, everything that goes into that that's very, very important to make sure you guys are profitable. So, you know, just because you get excited about, okay, I want a deal, I want to do this property, let's look at this deal and try to force feed it and make it work, you know, stick to your model, not the property. You know, it's nice and glamorous when you guys are doing real estate and you're fixing and flipping properties, but it doesn't look that glamorous when your account's negative because you've decided to buy something you shouldn't have. So make sure you buy something that fits within your model and you're not going to force feed it and make it work. That's going to be not something you think would be a profitable type deal. Consider outside the model if it's only low days on market or a competitive area. You know, I talked something about when we're looking at properties and doing just a net profit comparison, that's where this kind of comes into play. So, you know, if you're looking at properties that are low days on market, competitive area, that might be a good direction to go to. And then also, guys, kind of like this new strategy, wholesaling. You know, it's kind of like wholesale, but you're selling on the retail market. Wholesale is basically where you're buying a property, you're selling it for a discount, but you're selling it in a high desirable area, low days on market. The structural items are good, but you know, cosmetically, it just ain't where it needs to be. But the price is priced accordingly. So wholesale might be a model that you say, okay, this doesn't work for a buy and hold type property because maybe it's a higher price point, doesn't really work for owner finance. There's not a lot of buyers looking for that, but it's a very, very high-end area, or maybe an area someone's really looking after. It's great school districts, low days on market. I don't want to fix it, I just want to flip it. So wholesaling might be a direction to go where you say, okay, that's a good model to make that property actually work. And then it always, like I say, guys, check the secondary exit strategies because you do also don't want to be stuck with these kinds of properties. So make sure you guys do have a strategy in place to make sure you're not going to be stuck in the mud. Let's talk a little bit about running CMAs. You know, when you're acquisitioning a property, the first number that you're going to base all that information off of is basically the CMA, or what the property is going to be valued at. If you don't know what CMA stands for a comparable market analysis. So basically, guys, you need to start with that number and, of course, back your model and back everything down into it. So from an acquisition standpoint, running a CMA is going to be one of the most important numbers that you're going to spit out when you guys are looking at a property, you're looking at fix and flips, and a CMA, it could be all over the place as far as certain people's opinions, appraisers' opinions, BPO's opinions. Everyone has a certain opinion. There are certain standards as far as across the scope of the CMA to be able to make sure you're within. But really, guys, I can tell you that it's speculative as far as what people will say, okay, this is a definite, you know, value of opinion. So, you know, what I would say is that, you know, take it with a grain of salt. You know, always look at comparables in the marketplace and play within a certain range, but never look at comparable and just go crazy ham wild with it and think you're always get the top dollar of the market. That's why I always go a little bit below. That way you guys know you're always going to be green whenever you guys are going to go sell. So as a general standard, 10 years plus or minus is pretty much what you guys want to stay within. You know, I would say that if you're buying a 1970s house, you want to stay within the 1970s. If you're buying a 1960s house, you want to stay within the 60s. Now, the big thing is, like, if you're in an area where there's years built that are all over the place as far as that goes, you know, then you want to stay within that 10-year time frame. Like if it's built in 1979, you could go up to 1989, but you really don't want to go past that 10-year mark. You want to stay within the same year built because that really does change the value quite a bit. You want to stay within about 100 to really 300 square feet. Stay within about a 20-25% ratio of what the actual square footage is. You know, you don't want to go more than that. So like 500 square feet would probably be the very max as far as an actual square foot amount that you guys want to stay under. You know, 100 to 500 square feet. And obviously you're going to be changing your values just a little bit based on that. So price per square foot kind of comes into play because that's where you say, okay, if I'm, if the average price per square foot is $100 per foot, and we're looking at a 1,200 square foot house, and we're basing it on, 1,100 and 1,500 square foot homes, then you can play with that price per square footage to see kind of where that value adds up with those pieces of square feet, and then see if that matches the CMA, and then that can kind of show you guys where your property is going to sit as far as the value. Plus or minus a half mile, I like to stay within that corridor of wherever that property is at. So, when builders build areas, or when the city builds certain cities and areas, what they're doing is it's almost kind of like a grid in that sense. So a lot of times, a lot of places, you're going to have kind of a square where you guys are going to be sitting where the property is going to be, but then there's always, of course, curves and things like that in certain subdivisions, and there's going to be major streets, and then there's going to be highways. So the thing I always do, guys, I never go across a highway. I never try to go across a major street. You want to stay within the residential streets, and within that, those big major streets are going to define certain subdivisions. So the idea here is to stay within the same subdivision, same bed, same bath, and everything else. But when you're looking at that diagram of where you're going to be sitting, you really, really, really want to stay within those areas. You don't want to go without or outside of those, because the only time you really would be is if you're in a more rural area, and then you're going to do that little circle where you pull it out, and it's going to get to like a half mile, 2 miles, and that's where it's going to be landing. So that's kind of your rule of thumb. Consider seller concessions, guys, when you guys are looking at a resale value of other properties or other comps in the area. When properties are sold, there shows a list price and there shows the sales price. And if you ask your real estate agent, it will also show you where the seller's concessions are. You need to make note of that, because I made some mistakes when I was first getting started, and I didn't realize there was a seller's concessions area. And if you get enough of those in a certain area, that will actually be considered by the appraiser. So you need to make sure you're watching those seller concessions, because if they're giving out 5-10 grand concessions, realize that in the marketplace, because that's really truly not a price. You're actually giving out lower and lower prices based on that. When you're looking at converted garages, guys, as a general rule of thumb, I usually give about $10,000 to $15,000 off as far as value for converted garages. High-end homes, consider the other amenities and features that are within there. When you start looking at CMAs for higher-end homes, I mean like luxury-end homes, it starts getting real tricky, because you got, home theaters, you've got wine cellars, you've got crazy things you would never see in another house, like a elevator or like a crazy pond, or maybe even like a, in Texas, we've got our water parks in their backyard. So, how do you value those things? Sometimes it's difficult. That's why you may need to hire an appraiser when it looks at some of these items, and you go, okay, I've tried to figure out a rough value, but I need to be able to figure out exactly what that is. Let's hire an appraiser and bring them in. I usually, guys, whenever it comes to beds and bathrooms, depending on the price point, generally about $10,000 to $20,000 extra for additional beds, additional baths, as far as the pricing on where you're going to price your home in comparison to others. And then last but not least, please consider the lot sizes, okay? A lot of people overlook this because they think, oh man, look in this neighborhood. You got one house, you got two houses, you got three houses. One's for this price point, one's for that price point, one's at the highest. Or maybe it's a 10 or 15% higher than the others. Well, we're just going to base it on the highest price point home in the neighborhood and not consider most of anything else. So, because it's got the same square feet, the same year build, and maybe it's been rehabbed very nicely. But make sure to check on those lot sizes, because if the lot is a lot bigger, and I'm talking like going from a 1/4 acre to a 1/2 acre, that can make a big difference. And the way to value what that difference is sometimes looking at the CMAs. They'll kind of show you a price comparison, or just look at the raw data for land value, and that land value will be able to tell you guys, okay, based on an acre, what that sells for, this is what a 1/4 acre would make in differencing in price. So CMAs are a little difficult sometimes. It will take you some work and some homework to be able to really go through those and figure out, okay, this is how we analyze and CMA a property and really come to a good value. But if you need some help with that, there's a lot of good real estate agents or investors who will help you guys be able to price a property effectively. And sometimes even too, if you're looking at a home and you do need help in doing that, reach out to a real estate agent. They'll be able to help you guys realize, okay, this is what the actual property is going to be valued at, or what I would think it would be valued at. It can really help you guys in that acquisition process. So when you're analyzing a property, we're trying to get to that offer price point, right? We're trying to get to that, okay, we want to make this for an offer. take the top sales price, guys, and take about 5% off the top, and that's going to be your resale price, okay? So whatever we think our CMA has spit out as far as a price point, take that price point minus 5%. That's what your contingency is. So your actual sales price would probably look like. Take that sales price minus your 75, 80, 70% acquisition model, minus the repairs and estimates that you need, and that'll basically create your MAO, which is your maximum allowable offer. But that's not it, guys. Take that and then back it down another 5%, because obviously we don't want to make the highest and best offer that we can right up front. We want to have a little bit of wiggle room and a little bit of negotiation. So make sure to put it 5% right below that, and that should be, guys, a very, very good offer that you should send out. May not get accepted, but it's going to keep you guys in the safe. And then inspections, question mark, should you not do them? I would say there is inspectors out there that can do inspections for you, and they'll do them for investor type pricing, but you don't need to get a formal inspection every time. A lot of times, guys, you can get contractors over there to get a good estimate on what this rehab or repairs are going to look like. And a lot of times, guys, if something looks like it's okay, going to cost more than what we're thinking, or maybe there's another item we didn't know about, go ahead and get a contractor over there and get those things looked at and figure out what you're going to do. Offers, offers, offers. Man, I cannot tell you guys how important it is to make offers. Many, many, many offers. You've got to put offers out to be able to get a deal. If you don't make an offer, if you don't ask for the deal, then you're never going to get a deal. I can tell you that right off the bat. An offer a day keeps the low bank balance away. I can tell you that is a great mantra to go by, because if you don't make an offer every single day, you probably won't get a deal, and if you're not getting deals, you're not bringing up that bank account. So, make those offers, because the more offers that you can make, and I'm not talking just on MLS, I'm talking about off market, verbal offers, contractual offers, whatever you guys may want to do. If you get an offer out every single day, guys, you'll start building a pipeline, and you'll start building a deal flow, because what's going to happen is people are not going to accept your offer. They're going to say, nah, yeah, it's too low. I don't want to take that. I'm not going to take that for right now. We're going to move on to something else. And then if it doesn't work out, they're going to come back to you in 2 to 4 weeks and say, okay, can you take that offer again? And so that's where those deals are going to fall through the cracks. But if you don't initialize that first, you're never going to get to where you are, where you need to get these deal flows to make the properties work. So make 3 offers for every deal. I would say that whenever you guys make an offer, you want to make it a couple different ways. Obviously, you want to do one with cash, you want to do one with terms, and then you want to do one with cash and terms. So the big idea here, guys, is that just because they won't take a cash offer doesn't mean that the offer that you made is not something that they're going to accept. So sometimes I can tell you, well, I'll pay you $60,000 cash, but I can pay you $90,000 on finance, and I can do it with either no terms, or I can do it with terms, or I can do it with down payment or with no down payment, and that way I can kind of fit it for however they feel best necessary or however they need. So that way I'm kind of modifying this for what their needs are, what they want, and I'm not just giving them a straight up cash offer that may offend them. Sometimes I'm giving them full price offer, but with no down payment and really good terms for me in that sense. So think about that when you guys are making offers, and think about the seller's motivation. That'll help you guys make an offer. And then, of course, the last thing, guys, an offer isn't worth the paper it isn't written on. That was a good quote given to me once that said, hey, if you want to be formal, you want to be serious about making offers, put it on paper and send it out to that person, because if you don't, I guarantee you they won't take you seriously. So sometimes you want to do it verbally. Sometimes like with wholesalers and things like that, you want to talk to them over the phone, maybe just to see if that offer will work. But if not, guys, if you're dealing with any kind of sellers or direct to sellers, you're really going to want to make that offer formal in contract and in your email. Now, last thing, guys, some quick construction costs just to kind of cover a little bit about how to make offers virtually, because my biggest thing is I want to make as many offers as I can, and you can't exactly do that if you're always going out there and looking in the field. So we need some quick construction numbers to kind of realize and understand, okay, this is what my general construction needs are going to be based on what I can see, based on what I've been told, based on what I'm looking at. And these are some general numbers that you guys can use to be able to understand and realize, okay, these are dollar per square foot amounts that you can use to get a pretty good idea of what the construction cost is going to be. And obviously adding in some contingencies. So $6 per square foot for paint and carpet. That can be a little bit less, that could be a little bit more, but that's a general good rule of thumb to use. $3 a square foot for structural items. I figured that out, or found that out from Ron Carlson, he kind of told me that I was told him, hey, I've been using a $5,000 to $8,000 rule of thumb as far as the dollar amount, and he told me, no, man, use $3 a foot for your square feet for structural items, and that ended up actually coming out pretty darn accurate. So structural items are obviously your roof, foundation, your HVAC, plumbing, electrical. If you're having to do a total overhaul, use that $3 a foot and that'll come in pretty darn close to what you're looking for. $10 to $15 a square feet, depending on your, of course, area and finish out on what you guys are gonna do, but that's gonna cover your paint, your carpet, your kitchen and bathroom remodels. So maybe a little bit more closer to the $15 a square foot range based on what your paint and carpet dollar per foot is going to be able to look like. But what I would recommend is to really look and fine tune what those numbers are, because if you're working with the same bids, the same contractors, the same subs, and they're giving you these line items for what that's going to cost, start looking at that cost compared to square feet, and then you guys can really fine tune what your construction cost is going to look like. And generally, guys, as a rule of thumb, I use a $30 to $40 a square foot rule when you're looking at total remodels. So every structural item, flooring, painting, kitchen, bathroom remodels, and every item underneath the sun to be able to make that work. $30 to $40 a square foot is generally what you guys are going to be looking at. So guys, with that, that is an overview of acquisitions and really how to look at making offers on properties, getting those properties under contract, and really, guys, analyzing and feeling out what you guys are going to be able to use to make sure you guys are in the clear and get a good idea of all your costs up front before you guys go ahead and make that offer. So if you guys need help acquiring or selling a property, 1 to 4 family, have some general ideas of what you want to do, or have some questions in the marketplace, please feel free to reach out to me and my team. Our office number is 817-986-0911, and our email is therealreform@gmail.com. I hope to see you guys on the next part of our training.